I would like to give you the floor for a keynote speech, and then you will sit in my panel. We'll have an in-depth discussion about the current challenges and where we want to see Europe in the future. Please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jan. And first of all, I'm very pleased to be here on this Hans van Baalen town hall meeting. I did another one in Rome.
Yes.
Together, by the way, with our friends from Ukraine. So that was before the war. I think it was the Minister of European Integration.
Deputy Prime Minister, yes.
Yeah, who was with us. And I'm coming back from Kiev, and I told naturally about Hans, because when you go to the city hall from the presidential palace, you go through Maidan. And so I remember me very well the period where on Maidan there were these huge protests. We were there, Hans was there, and we did there a speech which was criticized for years, but since a few weeks I don't receive any criticism anymore. Really? You remember that? What Van Baalen and Verhofstadt were doing there? They started, we were even responsible for the start of the war in some of the reactions of the social media. But I have to tell you that, I should say, unfortunately, since a few weeks, these critics vanished. And yeah, it's absolutely clear why. Because we have seen the most brutal aggression since the Second World War by a country, going into a democratic, independent country, Ukraine, who has made the choice for what? For Europe, for European values. And the real reason, in my opinion, why Putin is starting this war and is doing this war has nothing to do with security issues, has nothing to do even, I think, with the big dream of a Russian empire. That's because he's fearing that with Belarus, what's happening in Belarus, with the choice that Ukraine has made for European and democratic values, that could spread to Russia itself and to the Russian society, that could create, be the beginning of the end of an autocratic regime. I think that that is the real reason why for this war. It's a fight between liberal democracy at the one hand and autocratism and autocracy at the other hand. And that's also the new world order in which we live, and in which we have to think about the future of Europe. This is not longer the world of 45-89, the Cold War. This is not longer the world of 89-2022. Liberal democracy has won. Fukuyama, you remember that? The end of history. Everything is done. We live in the best of all worlds. No, I think a new world has emerged. On the 24th of February. And that will be a world of empires. There will be empires of the good and empires of the bad. And if we want to survive in this world, survive as a European Union, we need to reform our European Union the fastest as possible and to take lessons from what is happening in the world today. It's a world of empires, not a world of nations. Because look to China. China is not a nation. It's a civilization. It's Han, and inside Han, the Han civilization, there are many ethnies and many nations. India, for example, is not a nation too. There are 2,000 nations and 2,000 ethnies in India. At the same time, they use more or less 20 languages in India, and there are 4 big religions, and it's the biggest democracy at the same time. That is a powerhouse, that is an empire. The United States of America, they are an empire, no? They tell it themselves, so we don't need to describe it. It's an empire for the good, but it can also change. Look what happened the last years. Can you imagine that we are in the same situation as today with Trump as President of the United States? And that Putin is taking this decision. Probably no intervention of the Americans, no delivery of weapons. I don't know, but I think that would be, the outcome would be that we would be totally alone Europe in facing that threat from Russia. That is a possibility. So if we look to the future of Europe, we have to think in that sense. The world has changed, is a world of empires, not longer nation states alone. Nation states play a crucial role naturally, but it are the alliances that are crucial. A country today independently, a nation independently, has not a security if it is not making part of a bigger entity. Can be NATO, can be the European Union, but it has to have a security, a base for stability. So we have to think about the future in Europe in that sense. What if tomorrow the same thing is happening and we can, for example, not rely on our American friends because there is a Trumpian president? That is the question that we... So that doesn't mean that we have to say, no, we don't want NATO anymore, we need European defense instead. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with our capacity or capability or sovereignty or autonomy to make all decisions inside a North Atlantic Treaty Organization at the same time inside the European Union if, for example, we have some interest to defend or security to defend. And that's the case today. So the whole issue about the future of the European Union is about that. What is our autonomy or sovereignty or decision-making power on digital, on military, financially, politically in a world of empires? That's the question. And I think we organized this conference on the future of Europe. I should say the timing was okay, that you could say. Because we are talking inside this conference about answers to challenges as we are facing today in and around Ukraine. That's the issue. So we are talking inside this conference about, do we need a European Defence Union as a part, as a pillar of the NATO North Atlantic Treaty Organization? And the answer of the citizens, because we organized the whole thing, you know that, I will not repeat that, citizens panels, on national level, on the European level, the answer is people say, yeah, maybe you need to build up some joint armed forces of the European Union. And obviously that is absolutely necessary actually, because if you look to defense and military expenditures on the world scale, and certainly in Europe, that's the biggest waste of money of Europe is defense. Huh? You're aware of that. I have maybe, are there slides? I have sent something about that yeah, I push, but I don't do anything. That is another thing. So that I come back to this later on. That is about digital. That's another disaster in Europe. But this is the expenditures of. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to move there.
Yeah, that you can see it also, Ilya. But so that are the expenditures. So unfortunately, I have the wrong slide with me because normally I put the whole expenditures of the European Union on military in one balloon. Here you have different balloons, Germany, France, UK, Italy, so it's still from the pre-Brexit period. So we have still the UK inside the European, but because they will come back, so they will come back. We don't know what moment, but they will come back. So if you make the total balloon of Europe, you will have a balloon that is as big as China, 250 billion. If you put the UK in it, you have even 300 billion. And then you have Russia, 61. There's something that doesn't look right here, no? There is a country with 61 billion, autocratic regime, making difficulties, and we can, in fact, not defend ourselves because we need the US. That's now that's more than $700 billion. So we are the second biggest spender of military worldwide, after the Americans. Even with the UK out. And we do exactly the same as the Chinese. And we do 4 times more as the Russians. But we are not capable to stop them. No. We need the North Atlantic. Fortunately, we have it. And why it is? Because there is duplication. Like we have the capacity only to do 10% of the operations of the American army. So we are spending more or less 30 or 40% of the American expenditures on military, what is enormous. People say it's not enough, we need 2%. I say you can increase to 2% everywhere. If you don't create a European defense community, it will change nothing at all, because you will simply amplify the duplication in Europe. That's what you are doing. So what is needed is really a defense union inside the NATO organization as the European pillar of this. And because today, like I said, we spend 30–40% of the American army, we can only do 10% of the operations of the American army. So I'm a lawyer. I have nothing to do normally with mathematics. I'm always saying, nevertheless, I was Minister of Budget in my life, but okay, that's not necessary to know anything about mathematics, Minister of Budget. Only the word no is needed to be a Minister of Budget. But I know that if you spend 30–40%, on the one hand, you can only do 10% of the operations of the American army. You're 3 times less effective than that because of duplication. And you cannot withstand, for example, a threat coming from the east, like from Russia. So that is at stake when we talk about defense. But there is more at stake if you talk about digital. That's then another slide that I have, I think. That is the, I don't know if I have the stock market value of the, I don't have one with me. You can go back? No, I can go back. Yeah, this is the stock market, the stock market value of the internet platforms worldwide today. So you see the American balloons, you see the Asian balloons. You have your glasses, because otherwise you don't find Europe on this chart. And that's the biggest balloon there is SAP. That's you know what it is? It's an accountancy system. It's a German firm for delivering software mainly to companies in Europe for accountancy. I explained that. I said that once with a guy of SAP in the room. Oh, it was not my best day, I have to tell you. But that's our biggest thing. You see also Spotify there. It's now bigger. Spotify, it grows, it grows, it grows. But there are many people who think that it is in fact on the wrong side, that it has to be in the US. It's not true. It's a European firm. It's a Swedish firm. But who went to the US to be successful and then came back. And what is the problem here? The problem is simple. We are talking in Europe about the digital market. Well, it doesn't exist, a digital market in Europe. Why? Because you have not one single regulator. In America, you have FCC, Federal Communication Commission, and they decide, okay, you can do this. Yes, you can launch that app. Yes, you make a deal with what? 3, 4 max mobile operators, and you are successful. In Europe, not. In Europe, no, you need 27 authorizations from the 27 national regulators on digital and on telecom. And then you need to make a deal with more than 100 mobile operators, because mobile telecommunication is still a national issue. And spectrum, so the possibility to have the possibility to do mobile communication in Europe, that's a national issue, because the ministers of finance like that money during the tenders. So you need to do an agreement with more than 100 mobile operators, and then to have 27 authorizations before you can launch something, a new app that we have found on internet, on mobile. And it's the same naturally when we talk about telecom, 5G, 6G, and so on. We have the technology. In semiconductors, it's also the same. We have everything. You can develop then in IMEC in Leuven, and then you go to Eindhoven, ASML, if I'm not mistaken, and there you buy the production line. Because Holland, the Netherlands, have the more or less the monopoly, I should say, on production lines in semiconductors. But have we a semiconductor industry? Oh, no, that we don't have. So we are, in fact, we have all the possibilities inside the European Union, and we're not capable to do that. And that is the result. The result is that, I have another slide, that is another slide who is saying, who is making the content on this social media? We are the biggest maker of content, together with APAC, more than the US. And here is who is making the money. Yeah, we are making the content mainly, but they are making the money. So we need to develop our own, in fact, not internet, but Web 3.0 is an absolute necessity in the future. And the same is on 6G. We need a European solution for 6G, and not a Chinese one. The Americans are not capable for the moment to do it. Even we are capable with Nokia and Ericsson to do it, and we don't do it. We are discussing country by country. We let Huawei in, yes or no. Why? We have the technology of 5G in-house. And tomorrow we will have the technology for 6G. What is a revolution compared to 5G. And so on and so on. So the number of stories, and I will end there because otherwise the whole day I can talk about this. But on digital, on military, financially, there needs to be another mindset in Europe. We need to see that European Union is a powerhouse, is an empire, has to be an empire of the good. We have to, like Katka is saying, defend our own values inside the European Union because we undermine, in fact, the European values. But what's happening in Hungary, what's happening in Poland, we have to, in another way, create a political union the fastest as possible inside Europe. And that means a number of things. That means, for example, in foreign policy, the end of unanimity. How you can do a foreign policy if you continue to have unanimity, and you need, first of all, to have all 27 member states on board before you can say something, or before you can act in the world of tomorrow. That doesn't work anymore. And that is exactly what the Conference on the Future of Europe is about. How to make a European Union that is capable to act in the future, that is capable to defend its interests of its citizens. It's, in fact, the future of the European Union is about the question how to regain sovereignty in a world dominated by empires, how to do that. And the answer is by having a real European Union. Not a patchwork, intergovernmental patchwork where you need everybody on board before you can say or act. No. A European Union who is democratic, who is based on a liberal democracy, on the respect of a number of values, and who is ready to defend that. Hardware and software we need. By citizens, because the citizens have formulated 178 recommendations. In these 178 recommendations, they tackle all the issues. Nearly all the issues. Not all, but nearly all the issues. For example, on unanimity, they say, yeah, you have to abolish it. Not for everything. No, they are moderate. They are more moderated than I. And they are saying, yeah, not when a new member joins the Union, not when you want to discuss the values of the European Union, then you need unanimity. Makes sense, no? But when it concerns, for example, foreign policy, to take positions in foreign policy issues, yeah, you need to abolish it. And the same is happening on another issue. So, for example, they say, European Commission, we don't understand you. Can you maybe call it European Executive or European Government instead of European Commission? What does it mean? So, even also in small things. So it's not only about big institutional changes. And what we have done now in the Conference on the Future of Europe, we have formulated in 9 working groups conclusions and proposals responding to the 178 recommendations. And what we will do next week, we will discuss them, and formally adopt these, in total, more or less 60 proposals of reform in the European Union, who are a response to the 178 recommendations of the citizens. Hopefully also with a positive opinion from these citizens' representatives on these proposals. And then we will give it on the 9th of May to the President of the Commission. We know that von der Leyen, the President of Parliament, Metsola, President of the Council, hopefully the same as the President of the Council today, Emmanuel Macron. And then we will start a big fight on the implementation of all this through the institutions, through the treaties. And what the Parliament will do, Parliament will probably, if there is a majority for it, but I think there is a big majority for it in Parliament, call for a convention, Article 48, to start the work on the issues that were, in fact, crucial and urgent. The health union, for example. COVID has illustrated that it's absolutely key. An energy union, for example. Our weakness today is naturally that we continue to pay the war machine of Putin with gas, with oil, with coal, and so on, because there is no energy union. It's not that we not decided that there was an energy union. I was in 2006 in the European Council in Hampton Court, the last summit of Mr. Tony Blair, and then we decided, yeah, we have an energy union in Europe. And then nothing happened anymore. And the reality is that today we are more dependent from Russian gas than in 2006 when we decided the energy union. So an energy union is not simply saying it's an energy union. No, that means that you have a European mix of energy, that you have European grids in gas, in electricity, and so on. So that you use one LNG big capacity in Europe as part of this energy union. And I think unanimity will be another key issue, and maybe also the necessity, that's the last point, it's a new element, to have some tool in the European Union. Then when there is a crisis, you can immediately act as a union. And that you don't need, first of all, to go through all the stages before you can do something, because that's the weakness of Europe. We got a financial crisis, and we acted 10 years after that with the banking union, and still the banking union is not complete. We got the migration crisis, and we tried to react to this, and we are still in discussion about the new migration policy. You have a geopolitical crisis. You know that the problem of Europe is not that we don't exist, we exist. Not that we act, but we are acting too little too late, and that has to change. And therefore, this conference on the future of Europe was needed. Needed so that we show the way with the support of the citizens, so that member states see that citizens are behind it. Because don't make a mistake, we as politicians, journalists do exactly the same thing. We are categorizing people, saying, you have Eurosceptics and you have Europhiles. In the reality, it's totally different. All these people in this conference say, we love Europe, we dream of Europe, but this European Union is not fulfilling our dream. That is their common position of all these people. And that we're going to try to change after the 9th of May. Thank you.